Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is that of Kenneka Jenkins. And for those of you who don't know about this case, there's kind of a lot of controversy surrounding it. A lot of people believe that the accidental death ruling was in fact not accidental at all, and that there was definitely foul play involved. So as we go through this case, we'll take everything into account and look at everything that we have available. And well, you guys obviously make your own decision on what you think. This, again, like the Kendrick Johnson, was a huge rabbit hole. You click on one thing and then there's something else that pops up and you end up clicking on that. So let's dive into the rabbit hole together. And I hope you guys find it interesting like I did. I found this case obviously very tragic, but also interesting to see what people have come up with like as a result of it. This case was suggested by Brittany, so thank you so much for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have, and if you have any more, of course, let me know and I will look into them for you. Kenneka Jenkins was born on the 15th of September in 1998 to her mother, Teresa Martin. They lived in Rosemont in Illinois. She graduated from Voice High School in 2017, and she actually had recently kind of got a job in a nursing home. Now, unfortunately, I tried really hard to try and find out who Kenneka was as a person, and I didn't really find much, and that's really frustrating because obviously these cases, you like to find out who the person was. You don't want to just make it about what happened to them, and you want to find out who they were as well. But I just couldn't find too much on her, unfortunately, and so let us just jump straight into the case. It was Friday the 8th of September in 2017, and there was this party being thrown at the Crown Plaza Hotel, which was in the same town that she lived in, and Kenneka wanted to go. However, she didn't tell her mum that she was going to go there, so she basically said to her mum that she was going to go with her and 3 friends, were going to go out, they were going to go to the cinema, they were going to go bowling, and then it was basically a way to celebrate her getting this new job. So that is what their plan was, that's what they were going to do according to her mother, because that's what she told her. Now, Kenneka was 19 years old at the time, so, you know, well, they're not classed as an adult till they're 21, are they, in America? But basically an adult, pretty much an adult, I don't really know. And she didn't tell her mother the truth that she was going to go to this party. I don't know, because there was going to be alcohol involved. Who knows why she didn't tell her? She must have had her reasons, but regardless of whatever they were, she did not tell her mum the whole truth. So Kenneka actually asked her mother if she could borrow her car. Obviously, she didn't know she was going to the party, but their plan was to drive out to the party, spend a few hours there, enjoy the time there, and then drive back. They weren't going to stay in the hotel room or anything like that. They were just going to go for the party. When it came to about 11:30 that night, the girls set off. They leave the house, they get in the car, and on the way, they're going to buy a few things, and they stop off to, I don't know, get some things that they think they want or need for the party, and then they head on to the hotel. At about 1:13 a.m, the group is seen entering the hotel on CCTV cameras, which there is a lot of, and you will see a lot of that as we go through the case, but they're seen entering the side entrance of the hotel at that time and walking through. They begin to make their way up to the 9th floor, room 927 to be exact, which is where the party was being held. Around 15 minutes as later sort of them being at the party, Kenneka sends her sister a text. Now, I don't know the context of that, I don't know what was said on that, probably just general things, but that would be unfortunately the last contact that she would ever have with her family. So back to this party, there was I believe about 30 to 40 people going to it, and if you can imagine a hotel room, they're not made for that many people. It must have been so crammed in there. So as a result of that, people were spilling out onto the hallways, people were chilling out there, like, I don't know, there was a lot of noise going on, as you would expect with a party, and I do believe that there was at least one noise complaint that night from other guest members in the hotel. To be honest, I don't understand why the hotel didn't shut the party down. Apparently, there were underage drinking going on up there. There was noise, lots of noise. There was one noise complaint that we know of. And it's a hotel. So you've got these drunk teenagers spilling out all over the hotel onto the corridors. And then they've got other guests there as well. I don't get why they didn't shut it down, but they didn't. I believe that it was all actually as a birthday party for a girl called Irene. She has red hair. I'll show you clippets of the video. But she actually went live on Facebook. I believe it's about 6 minutes long. I'm not going to put the entire thing in. I'm just going to put a few bits in. That was around 1:30. And this is actually where a lot of the theories stem from. At some parts in the video, somebody wishes Irene happy birthday, which is where, obviously, I think that it was her birthday party comes from. So I'm going to play the sections of video that people believe that they hear some suspicious stuff going on. Now, I'm not going to tell you what people believe they said, because in my eyes, it puts it in your brain and then that's all you can hear. So I'm just going to play it out with nothing over it, what people think they've said, and just let it sink in and tell me what you heard. Here's the video now. Okay, now I'm going to play it again with what people think that they heard, what was apparently said, and what a lot of the theories actually stem from because of that. 25 seconds in on this section of the video, it's thought that somebody in the background says, "We're about to murder somebody." At 2:03, they're still raping her. Then apparently in the next section, somebody hears Kenneka say, "Help me," before the music then comes on again. So, can you guys hear any of those? Because I didn't. I mean, yes, okay, like I said, when somebody puts something in your head, that is what you hear. So, after I'd heard what they thought they said on the first one, yeah, okay, I heard it, but would I have heard that if that speech wasn't already in my head? I really don't think so. That's why I've done it that way in my video, so you guys can get the chance to hear it without actually knowing what other people think they said. Even though I've heard some of the other things that they think that was said, I still can't hear it. So the first one, yeah, okay, I can hear that once it's been already put in my brain. The second and third, I just can't hear anything remotely that sounds like what they're saying it sounds like. But I wanted to include this in this video because, again, this is where so many theories stem from. People actually believe that those things were said in the video, and then they're thinking that foul play was involved. Not only as a result of that, but that's like a big factor in this case. So I wanted to make sure that I give you guys everything that I could find on it. A thing that really debunks this video for me though is that Kenneka was, you know, she was involved in people's Snapchat stories all night long. She was involved in various different videos and things like that. There was even a video done an hour after the live Facebook video.
Oh, you want to do something?
Irritated.
And you can see her in the background. She's dancing away. She's completely fine. She doesn't even look that drunk or anything like that. She just looks like she's having a good time. So if something was happening an hour ago, I really don't believe that she would be just chilling and dancing like she was an hour later if something horrible had happened to her. She also appeared in one particular friend's Snapchat story. It was taken at 2:17 a.m. They were in the bathroom and she was just completely normal. So I really don't believe that before that it was anything notorious going on. And again, she didn't seem that wasted either at this point, but we all know how you can go from being completely fine 1 second and then just utterly, absolutely paralytic like the next, because you're on the threshold, you're teetering, and then you're just gone. So we all kind of know how quickly that can happen. This is when 3 a.m. comes around. The girls have spent about 2 hours at the party by now, and they decide that they'd had enough and that they were gonna go home. So they all head towards the elevator, and when they get there, Kenneka hasn't got her phone and she hasn't got the car keys, which obviously they were gonna plan on driving home. Now I do hope that at least one of them was sober enough to be driving, because, you know, nobody should ever drink and drive, ever. I mean, you're allowed, like, legally a couple of drinks, I believe, something like that. So I hope that at least one of them was under the limit, but I'm not entirely sure on that. Either way, Kenneka was left at the elevator whilst her 3 friends went to get her stuff. Now, I don't get that. You will see for yourself the state that Kenneka was in. She was a mess. She was completely wasted paralytic, for lack of a better word. She was really, really bad, and she's stumbling, and I just don't get why they left her. I just don't, because there's 3 of them, okay? One of them could have stayed behind. I get not sending Kenneka for her keys because she's that drunk, she probably wouldn't even be able to find them. But why did all 3 have to go back into the party? I just don't understand, because one of them could have stayed behind while the other 2 went. Personally, even if it was just me and, say, my best friend, I would have never ever left them at the elevator. At the very least, alone, at the very least, I would have made them come with me. Like, supporting them to go and get the stuff. I don't get it. I'm not blaming them in any way whatsoever. I can't wrap my head around why they actually left her. Either way, all 3 of them did. They go, they spend 10-15 minutes in the party getting her stuff, I believe, and when they come back, guess what? Kenneka is not there, and she's nowhere to be found. So they don't know whether she's wandered off. They just don't know what happened to her. So the girls are caught on CCTV looking for her. They're going around the hallways, they're searching everywhere they can, and they're kind of doing the shrugging, like, I don't know where she is kind of motion. You can see it on the film. They do look high and low for her everywhere they can think of, but they just don't find her. They wonder if she's kind of wandered off, if she's still wandering around the hotel, if she's gone outside, because she could have done. She could have gone out on the main entrance and be wandering down the street for all they knew. So they look, they don't find her. At about 4:02 a.m, they decide that they're going to call Teresa, because, well, maybe she's got a taxi home, maybe she's already home and they're looking for her, and she's at home just like chilling, asleep probably. So they ring Teresa, and Teresa tells them that she's not heard of her daughter and her daughter has not come home. And so then everyone begins to panic a little bit more. After they hang up that conversation, they're seen walking towards a man on the reception desk. There's no audio, so you don't hear anything, but you see them talking, and then you see him kind of gesture off to the right. Now, I don't know whether he's telling them that there's like an area over there that they haven't searched, or whether he'd seen Kenneka going in that direction. I don't know, but either way, the girls go off in that direction to look there too. They look around, they check the car again, they go outside, inside, they just go everywhere they can, and they end up looking on like the lower level floor, which is where the business operations of the hotel are run. So they have restaurants and things, the industrial kitchens are down there, they've got offices, they've got auditoriums, they've got all that kind of things, meeting rooms, all down there. That shouldn't be accessible to the public because it's all sort of the inner runnings of the hotel. So the girls end up going down there and looking. Now, I don't know how they found out about that, whether that man actually told them about going, down there. Personally, nobody should have been able to get down there. No member of the public should have had access to that at all. Like, they should have had a keypad on the door or something, because it's for staff only. And don't get me wrong, it was plastered with signs, staff only. But, come on. Most people don't even take any notice of that when they're sober. Never mind if they're drunk. So, in my eyes, they should have blocked it off. But the girls go down there, they look around, but they don't look around too extensively because of these signs. They're not supposed to be down there. So, they look where they can. They look in, like, the toilets and things like that. Kenneka is not there, and then they go back up to the lobby again. Downstairs as well, I forgot to mention, they actually had 2 kitchens down there, and it was because they were expanding their restaurant, so they built this new kitchen. It wasn't in use yet, but it was down there, and they had things like, it didn't have any food in or anything like that, but they had these big walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers, and they were actually turned on because they were being used as overspill from the first kitchen in case they needed to put any stuff in there. So these were turned on, but the kitchen wasn't really in use, and there was padlocks and things on the doors, but I don't believe the padlocks were in use either. So back to the girls, after they searched everywhere that they can think of, they decide, with it now being 5 a.m, that they're gonna drive the car back to Teresa's. And again, I hope at this point, at least that one of them is sober enough to do that, because that is what they do. So they drive the car back, and then Teresa then gets in the car and she takes the girls back to the hotel to go and search for her daughter herself. When she arrives, the first thing that she does is she goes up to the person on reception, the woman, I believe it's a woman at this point, and speaks to her. She's asking for the CCTV footage of the hotel. She explains the situation, that her daughter's been missing for nearly 2 hours now. They can't find her. Can you please look at the CCTV so that they can track her? Because at this point, they don't even know if she's in the hotel. They don't know if she's wandered out. They don't know if somebody's taken her. They don't know anything. So if they looked at the CCTV, they could probably like pinpoint where she went, which makes sense. Teresa really felt like she was dismissed by this woman, who basically told her that she can't look at the footage because she would have needed to file a missing persons report. And that part really gets me, because I just really, really wish they would have looked. Like, I get maybe she couldn't have personally looked, but she could have tried making a phone call either to the manager, to the security company, to somebody who would have been able to look at that footage and track her. I get they probably have loads of cameras everywhere. There's hours and hours of footage, but let me just put this in your brain. They knew the elevator that the girls left Kenneka at, and they knew the time that they left her. So you go to that camera and you go to that time, and guess what? You'll see her. They could have just looked, in my eyes, but they didn't. And this case may have turned out very differently if they had looked. I don't know the ins and outs of it. Maybe by law they couldn't, but I don't get that, because if they've got security cameras there, then there's somebody apart from the police that is able to look through them. So they could have called somebody, in my eyes. Anyway, Teresa begins looking for her daughter. She's looking through the hotel. You know, what else can she do? She needs to find her little girl. So she basically does the search that the girls had already done. So she's rehashing everything. But there's only so many places you can look. Eventually, at 7:15 a.m, after searching for her for a couple of hours, she decides that she's going to file a missing persons report. And again, she felt dismissed by the officer on the other end of the phone, because she just told them everything that had gone on, you know, and that her daughter was missing after a party. And they pretty much just said to her that she's probably just sleeping off the alcohol somewhere, and not to worry too much, she'll probably turn up. And then if she doesn't turn up after 24 hours, give us a call and file a missing persons report. And personally, I can't even imagine how Teresa must have felt in that moment. Her daughter is missing, and the police are just... I get it, okay? Alcohol does things to you. It makes your inhibitions go out the window, and you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And okay, you could be off sleeping it off somewhere, but at the end of the day, her daughter was missing, and she was terrified, and she just felt like she was getting no help from anyone. So now we fast forward to a little over 12 hours after Teresa tried to file her missing persons report. We're still on the same day, so the 9th of September, but we are now at 8:30 p.m. And the police arrive at the hotel. Now Teresa is thinking, great, you know, they've finally decided that they're going to come and help, kind of thing. But the reason that they were there was not the reason that you may think they were. They weren't there to look for Kenneka at all. Oh no. They had actually been called by the hotel on the family, Kenneka's family, for causing a disturbance at the hotel all day. So her family were looking for her. They're knocking on doors. They're handing out posters. Have you seen Kenneka? They just spend the entire day searching. And I'm sorry, but you would. That is your child. You are going to do everything you can to look for them. The police weren't doing it, so they had to do it themselves. And I wouldn't be leaving that hotel until I found out something either. So I can't blame the family for that. And I can't really blame the hotel in the same sense, like they had a business to run. But at the end of the day, someone's life could have been in danger. So who cares about the business? It's a person who could be in danger. They're gonna... even if the police were looking, so say that the police, you know, were there and searching, that'd disrupt the hotel anyway. So what difference did it make that the family were doing it? It's just a bloody joke. Like, seriously, they called the police on a family that was looking for their missing family member that was last seen in their hotel, and they wouldn't even look at the footage to try and prove, I guess, that she wasn't in their hotel, because they just didn't, I don't know, they just wouldn't do it. So, seriously? Teresa speaks to the officers, you know, explains the situation, and they go up to room 927 where the party originated. They look around, they don't find any signs of foul play or anything amiss or anything like that. And they just pretty much told Teresa that if her friends and family come up with anything with regards to Kenneka, to ring them and let them know about it. So basically you're telling her that you want them to do your jobs for you, right? because that's what it sounds like to me. Got it. It's just so annoying because they treat these cases like, I don't know, the person involved has just run off or is just off sleeping somewhere, and you know, that's not always the case. And I get it, sometimes it is, but it's so often it's not. So often that person is in danger or something like that. At around 10:23 a.m. on the 10th of September in 2017, the food and beverage assistant goes down to the kitchen, the second kitchen. You can see this on surveillance tape, okay? So they go down there and they go over to the walk-in freezer that is just out of shot. So at the angle of the camera, you can't actually see the freezer. You can see shadows of people opening it, but that's it. Like, just the way it's angled, you just can't see the door. You can't see inside it or anything like that. You can't see the door open. So the assistant goes over, opens the door, and inside he finds the frozen body of Kenneka Jenkins. She is lying on her left side on the floor with her face down. Obviously, he calls authorities, paramedics, everyone, and they quickly come down to the scene. The medical examiner arrives along with the paramedics, and they quickly determine that there is no cardiac activity coming from Kenneka whatsoever, and they actually pronounce her as deceased at 12:48. Now, they had to wait a little while for her body to actually thaw so that they could perform a post-mortem, but when it did, they didn't find any injuries on her body whatsoever. Well, they found 2 injuries, but I mean, like, no evidence of a fight, foul play, being attacked in any way whatsoever kind of thing. The only 2 injuries that they found on her was an abrasion on her ankle and this contusion to her right leg. But apart from that, there was no other evidence of any trauma whatsoever. Also, when they found her, one of her trainers was off, which was the ankle that was injured slightly. Now, this is just my presumption completely, but to me, if she fell over and hurt her foot, her ankle, her leg, whatever, being drunk, then maybe it was causing her discomfort and pain having the shoe on, and that is why she took it off and launched it. I don't know. That is just my presumption, but that's just what I got from it when I looked at all the pictures and things like that. That would make sense to me, at least. Or maybe she took it off to look at it, because if something's sore and hurting you, you pull off your shoe to look at, you know, what damage you've done, something like that, and then just chucked it. They did a toxicology report on her body, and of course it came back that she'd been drinking. So along with the alcohol in her system, they also found a drug called topiramate, which is actually a medication that they normally use in epilepsy. So it's kind of helps with seizures and things like that. The drug is also used in other circumstances too. I believe it helps migraines, it helps as like a mood stabilizer, but its primary use normally is for epilepsy. But Kenneka didn't have epilepsy. Now, as everyone knows, most drugs can have side effects, especially coupled with alcohol. So sometimes the alcohol like inflates the side effects, and sometimes the drug can make the alcohol like 10 times worse even though you've not drank that much. And that may have been why she was as bad as she was, and you will see in the footage what I'm talking about. The autopsy came back and they ruled her death as hypothermia, with alcohol and the drug that was in her system established as a significant contributing factor to her death, with her actual manner of death being ruled as accidental. So you remember this surveillance footage that nobody was willing to check? Well, guess what? Now that they found her body, they thought that it would be prudent to go and check this footage, to go and see what happened to her. Which, why didn't they do in the first place? Sorry, I just can't get over that. So they go back to the time where her friends left her to the elevator, and they follow her through and see where she went. So on it, Kenneka is seen going all the way down to the lower level to the hotel by herself. She's seen wobbling back and forth, side to side, from one side of the wall to the other side of the wall. She's seen grabbing onto it to hold her balance. She's stumbling all over the place. She is in a mess. Like, she looks so intoxicated, she can barely stand up straight. At one point, she walks and falls onto the stairs handrail and like has to grab it to stop herself from completely falling over. She's also seen going into the men's restroom. I believe she's in there for about 45 seconds before she turns around and comes out. She goes off camera to the right, where I've watched other videos on it, somebody's done like a walkthrough of the hotel, and there's actually a water fountain and things around that corner. So unless she was stood around there having a drink, I don't know, but there was a water fountain around there, and she goes around there a couple of times. But basically, as you can see, she's all over the place. She looks very, very intoxicated in this footage. She's wandering around without a clue where she's going or probably what is even going on. It then shows her walking into the unused kitchen by herself. She's seen walking to the back of the corridor of the room where the surveillance video kind of stops. It doesn't go as far as that because of the camera angle. However, if you look closely, like in the top left corner, you can see a shadow of the freezer door opening and then shutting. And then that's it. Kenneka is not seen again on that footage. She never leaves that freezer. As I said before, the footage is just really frustrating. If they'd have just checked it when Teresa asked them to, you know, it would have been a lot sooner than they actually found her body, and maybe she would have still been alive. That is a big maybe. I've looked into how, on average, how long it takes for somebody to freeze to death. I don't know what the temperature of the freezer was, and depending on various factors like how much clothing you're wearing, how, I don't know, how stocky or whatever you are, it normally takes a couple of hours or less to actually freeze to death. So saying she went in the freezer just after 3:30 a.m. and Teresa's asking to see the footage after 5 a.m, then maybe, just maybe, there would have been a chance that she was still alive. I mean, it's highly unlikely, you know, but she could have been. It could have been possible that she would have still been alive. Maybe she was on the brink of death at that point, and maybe they could have brought her back, because I don't know whether you guys know, but sometimes there's a saying in like the medical field where they say like you're not dead until you're warm and dead. So freezing temperatures kind of puts everything, why do I always do that? It kind of puts everything in like a stationary state, and once they warm you up and get you going again, then sometimes you can survive it. So we don't know, you know. I'm not saying that it's definite that she would have still been alive, because, you know, she might not have been, but it's possible. Either way, there's no question about the fact that they would have found her a lot sooner, and then they wouldn't have been open to questions as to why they didn't look at the footage until after her body was found, because there was a lot of questions about that and people rioted about it and things like that. There was a lot of anger in this case. After her daughter's body had been found, Teresa is seen on the cameras. She is being pulled away at 1:15 a.m. along with about 20 of her friends and relatives into like this conference room area, and that is where they inform her that Kenneka has been found dead. And then moments later you see Teresa running out of that room, hysterical, screaming. Obviously you can't hear that because there's no audio, but she just runs straight to the lobby. She's absolutely devastated, like anyone would be. She does eventually go on Facebook Live to tell everyone that was looking for her, you know, and concerned with her daughter missing, that she has been found and that she's unfortunately no longer alive. At first, I believe she did say that there was no foul play, you know, suspected, and that she didn't think that anything, you know, was amiss in that sense, but later on she would actually change her mind. And it was just certain aspects of her daughter's death that didn't make sense to her, and she really, I believe to this day, believes that her death is now not an accident. There were two main things that she based this off. So you've got the drug topiramate, I think, that was in the system, right? So this wasn't prescribed to Kenneka, according to Teresa. She didn't know that she was on it, and so that made her believe that possibly somebody might have drugged her as a result of that. Also, when she was found, as I said, she had one shoe off, which I have come up with a possible explanation for, but there could be others. I might not be right. And she believes that coupled with, so what I didn't actually mention when they found her body is like her top was pulled up above, so you could see like her back all exposed, and she believed that because of that and the shoe off, that maybe there was foul play involved, and that maybe somebody had done something to her, struggled or something like that, because why would her clothes be kind of pulled up if you're freezing to death in a freezer? It's not something that you generally think that somebody would do. You know, you're trying to get heat, you're trying to stay warm. Why would you pull your clothes up and expose yourself? It's not uncommon when suffering from hypothermia that people actually do undress themselves, which sounds really weird, and I get it, it really does, but basically it's got a name. It's called Paradoxical Undressing, and it is where people who are suffering from bad hypothermia, they lose like all rationality as the nerves are damaged, and they feel incredibly and irritably hot because of that, even though they're freezing, but they just have this overwhelming feeling that they are boiling. They then obviously strip off their clothes to try and cool themselves down like anyone would, but they're still freezing to death. Even though they think that they're sweating, they're not, they're freezing. And this normally happens in kind of the final stages of hypothermia. And so soon after that, once you've undressed yourself, they fall unconscious or they pass away. It's like the final stages, and obviously once you've taken your clothes off, which is probably the only thing that's keeping you remotely warm, you then just freeze to death quicker. So that could, you know, explain that. Now, as for the drug, I don't know the science behind this. Apparently they could do something, which I find really clever, to look into her system to find that this was actually a regular drug that she took. So maybe she did have a prescription for it. Maybe she was 19. Maybe she didn't tell her mother. You know, again, she didn't have epilepsy, but it was also used for migraines, mood stabilizers. What if she was feeling a little down, or she was, you know, her hormones were all over the place and she needed mood stabilizers, but she didn't want to tell her mum? Things like that happen. She was like basically classed as an adult, and so maybe she just didn't tell her mum about it. I'm not saying that that's true either, because it might not be, but it's just like a plausible explanation as to why she had this drug in her system. But not only that, you know, she had taken it before, so it would make sense. So the authorities on 2 separate occasions actually approached Teresa to try and get like her phone, and Teresa wouldn't allow them to look through her phone. And I get it, it's like her final act of trying to protect her daughter, to protect her daughter's privacy, because everyone has so much private things on the phone. Her daughter was no longer alive, and maybe, I'm not saying that this was a line of thinking, but it probably would have been my line of thinking, that this was just the last way in which she could actually protect her daughter. Again, I don't know her proper reason behind it, but she just wouldn't allow them to look through it. Teresa went on to file a $50 million lawsuit against the Crown Plaza Hotel. It basically entailed multiple things, one of which was that the party should not have been allowed to continue. Again, there was underage drinking, there was noise complaint, they were spilling out all over the place, and so they shouldn't have allowed that party, especially 40 people crammed into one room. Unethical. They shouldn't have allowed it to continue, so why did they not stop it? The lawsuit also stated that the kitchen that Kenneka had stumbled into should have been locked up. It should have been closed off. Yes, okay, they had the do not enter, employees only signs everywhere, but again, you saw Kenneka in the video. She is freaking wasted. There's no way that she can probably look at a sign and think, oh, I shouldn't be here. She probably couldn't even read the sign at that point. She's probably seen quadruple of the sign, and she's not going to know. She didn't have a clue. So they should have helped protect people like that, who may end up down there, who may not see the signs or may not be capable of reading the signs. They shouldn't have been allowed to get down there in the first place. They basically said that it should have been closed off and that the signs weren't enough to deter someone from going down there, which they weren't. Even somebody that was sober. You know, sometimes people go down and do these things and ignore the signs, so they just shouldn't have been allowed to get down there. It also claimed that the hotel staff were pretty negligent in trying to help Teresa in the search for her daughter. Now, I don't actually know what happened to that lawsuit. I couldn't find the result of it, so if anyone does know, please let me know whether she won it, whether it's still ongoing, or whether she lost it, because I just couldn't find it. So if anyone knows, please let me know, because I'd be interested to figure out like whether she won or not. But right now, Kenneka's case is closed, and authorities have said that it's just an incredibly sad and tragic accident. This case has something a lot of cases don't have. They have a lot of footage of Kenneka's journey. You can see her walking around, stumbling all over the place, and in it you can't see anyone else. Like, I can't see anyone else, at least anyway. They also never catch anyone on the lower levels after that. So after she walks into the freezer, there's nobody else on the lower levels seen going in and out, apart from obviously the girls when they went in a little bit, but there's just nobody else down there. So it begs the question as to how people could suspect foul play, because they didn't catch anybody else on the cameras at all, apart from the girls again, and the person that actually found her body. If you look up this case, there's so many theories about it, and there's so many videos out there, especially people kind of slowing down the surveillance footage and just telling you what they see. And they are adamant that foul play was involved in this case. If you type into a name into YouTube alone, you get all of these kind of people analysing the surveillance footage. They do little sections and they talk about it. In some of them they're saying, look, you can see a guy there waiting for her in the kitchen. So there's this blue figure as she walks into the kitchen. Well, figure, I say figure. They think it's a figure. I don't think it's a figure. Anyway, this blue thing in the kitchen, they believe that that's a person stood there waiting for her.
What we're about to show y'all right now is this dude right here in the blue waiting for Kenneka to come in the kitchen. This man is standing there. He's standing on the side of something.
Let me show you. He's like this to y'all.
He's standing on the side. And
With a
he
hood on, white
he
hood
can
on, blue jacket.
white hood on,
Look
blue
at-
jacket.
wait for
Let me
the
show
one
y'all.
across the corner.
White hoodie, blue jacket. I'ma just keep the camera right here. Y'all watch his activity and tell me this ain't a dude. Turn his face.
On some areas of footage, they say, look, a hand comes out and tries to grab her.
Check out the hand that tries to grab her from over in this area right here. Keep looping it so you can see the hand. See the hand? Go back. Watch the hand. Watch the hand try to grab her. See it? Watch the hand try to grab her one more time. Watch the hand try to grab her. Right there.
And people just truly think that she was a victim of a crime. This, in their eyes, is backed up by like how dirty her clothes were when she was found. I guess that could indicate some sort of struggle, like if she's rolling around on the floor and getting dirty, someone's on top of her trying to fight her or something. But then there's no evidence that any of that happened apart from like the injury to her ankle. There's also like her other trainer, she's wearing white trainers and one of them is like really dirty on the side. And people believe that that is evidence of her foot being stamped on. To me, if you've ever owned white trainers, you know how much of a nightmare it is to keep them clean, for starters. Even if they were sparkly when she went to that party, she's drunk. Everyone's drunk. Somebody could have stomped on her foot at some point during the party. Or even on the floor in the freezer. It was wet in there. There was ice. It's a freezer. The floor is also dirty. You can see it in the pictures. And so if it's wet and dirty and she gets her clothes wet, then the dirt's going to stick to them and then she ends up with really dirty clothes because of it. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's been like a struggle or something like that. So that backs up kind of their theories of foul play and things like that. And then you've got like the other side who just believe that it was an unfortunate tragic accident, that when Kenneka's friends left her, she was really, really drunk. She ends up wandering off. She ends up down in there, lower levels where she shouldn't have been able to get. She walks through the kitchen. She opens the freezer door. She walks into the freezer door and then it closes behind her, which is what the door does. And then she can't get out. I believe inside the freezer, there wasn't a light, or the light maybe turns off when you close it. I don't know. So it's probably pitch black in there. She couldn't see a damn thing. And then to top that off, she is really, really drunk. Inside, there was a button that you push and it will release and open the door like a safety opening mechanism. But whether Kenneka could even see that, even remotely knew that that was there, I don't know. Whether she had tried messing with it and pulled it or something, I don't know. But even though that feature was there, she froze to death in there. She wasn't able to get out. So whether it's because it was pitch black and she just didn't have a clue that that was there, or she was just that drunk to not figure out how to work it, I don't know. I've also seen theories that the freezer was locked after she went in, which doesn't really make much sense because nobody was caught on the CCTV, as I've already said, you know, after she went in there until her body was found. So that doesn't really make sense to me either. Personally, in my opinion, there was no man stood in a blue jacket with a white hoodie waiting for her in the kitchen. That was just some, I don't know, some kitchen rubbish just stacked up. There are no hands grabbing or pulling her. On the footage where somebody claims that they see a hand, it's her hand. She goes around the corner, her hand kind of goes out of scene for 1 second, and as it's coming back, yeah, okay, it does look like a hand trying to grab her, but you can literally tell that it's her own hand. And when you're just watching this footage, she's just a vulnerable girl at this point because she is so intoxicated. She is most likely confused and possibly has no idea what's going on. And maybe that drug was amplifying it. Maybe, okay, I do think it's possible that maybe she could have been drugged. Maybe at the party she was spiked. But I don't believe it was with the intention to kill her. I believe that it was with the intention to make, if someone did spike her, maybe they spiked numerous people and it was to, you know, have a good time at the party. I don't believe that the intentions behind that was, you know, to end up killing her, to end up what happened. I believe that she just walked into that freezer, opened it up, walked in, the door closed behind her, and she wasn't able to get out and she froze to death. I honestly really understand the theories behind it. Like, people can't really understand that somebody, you know, who was drunk could just walk into a freezer and freeze to death. I get it. You know, you just think that that kind of thing wouldn't happen. But in this case, I truly believe that it did happen. So because of that, they try and come up with these other theories. And maybe there is more to this case than does meet the eye. But to me at least, Kenneka wasn't a murder victim, just a victim of a tragic and heartbreaking accident. This case is really, really sad, and it completely breaks my heart. Like, Kenneka was a young, beautiful 19-year-old woman with her whole life ahead of her. Her family lost her, she lost her life, just with the turn of events that happened. Like, initially her friends left her when she was in that state, like, completely wasted. Then later on, when she'd actually gone missing, the hotel staff wouldn't call somebody to try and get them to look at this footage. Just with those set of circumstances, obviously I'm not blaming her friends. Sometimes you just don't think and you just go, you know, I'd never ever blame them, and I'm not blaming the hotel member that wouldn't look at the footage either, because in their head they just thought she's off sleeping somewhere, she's drunk. People didn't really think that much of it at the time, but maybe they should have. The hotel staff just thought, oh, she's drunk, she's off somewhere sleeping off, she'll be fine. But the horrible thing about this case is that she wasn't fine. She ended up freezing to death in a freezer. And again, I'm not blaming them, because a lot of people would think along those lines, especially when drunk teens are involved. It's just trying to get to the mentality where they don't think like that. Maybe something has gone wrong. Maybe they are in trouble. People need to think more along them lines, because there's so many cases that maybe could be helped if people did think more along them lines. And yes, eventually she did turn up, but just not in the way that anybody would have ever wanted in a million years. So let me know your thoughts on this case. Do you think that there was foul play involved, that the footage shows people trying to grab her and people waiting for her? Or do you think the same as me, that, you know, it was just an unfortunate set of circumstances that ended up with her not having a clue where she was going, walking in that freezer and freezing to death, and there was no foul play involved? Let me know. I'm really interested in what you guys think after all of this information has been given to you. But yeah, that's the end of the case. If you have enjoyed my video, give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for similar content. Anyway guys, that's all I have today on the case of Kenneka Jenkins. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.